Greetings, welcome to Baba Nyame. I'm your guide and host. On this episode, we'll focus on 3 African spiritual truths that you have never heard before. The first one is about ritual. There is a way in which rituals should occur at a certain place, at a certain time, and also with certain kinds of considerations in mind. Here it is. So, when a ritual occurs matters greatly. Ritual cannot take place just anytime, anywhere. First and foremost, if you are a healer or a spiritualist, you work with the spiritual forces that are a part of your particular work. And often they will guide you as to the how, when, where, and why. But as a rule of thumb, because anyone can do ritual, you don't have to be a spiritualist to do ritual. And because anyone can do ritual, it's important to know the clock of ritual. By that I mean this. Rituals that are meant to uplift, to be productive, to be positive, and to be wholesome, those should be done from 5 in the morning till 6 p.m. in the evening. Why is that? Well, it matters. You see, spiritual entities and forces, they're on a certain clock or shift, if you may. And it matters the type of work, ritual work that you're doing, spiritual work that you're doing, in terms of that work being carried out by the entities or forces that are designed for that kind of work. And so when it is light outside, let's say 5:30, but 5 o'clock, can work. As light begins to break, most places in the world, in their time zone. And of course, 6 p.m. usually when the evening starts. And so for that reason, it makes a world of difference. Again, if you're a healer or if you do any kind of ritual or spiritual work, when that work is carried out. Now, the same is true if you plan to do work that is for, the negative sort, that is a sort meant to hurt, to harm, to get back at, for revenge, for jealousy, whatever the net negative motivation might be, those works usually done after 6 p.m. and of course before 5 a.m. Because different kinds of entities and forces take the shift, essentially the night shift. And they are of a different kind of character. They don't play, and they are of, those so-called dark forces. Now, I want to give you a caveat because you might be saying, well, why am I telling you this? I don't tell you this so you can hurt or harm someone. I'm telling you this so you can be aware, because there are people who do that kind of work after 6 p.m. And therefore, if you are aware, you are on, therefore, your P's and Q's. That is, you are alerted to what kind of work that person does if it is that kind of night. Now, here's the caveat. You can do work after 6 p.m., but it is something that you need to be very much skilled and able to do. In other words, you can do work that is of those, so-called dark forces, but you got to know what you're doing. Because again, what's the best way to catch a crook or a thief or a criminal? By using forces that are of that element. So are productive and positive work that can be done with those forces, but you got to know what you're doing. So the clock is very important. That many people who engage in African spirituality, whether in the African diasporas of the world or the African continent and its outlying islands, and don't know or aware that there is a timing matter, that is a clock matter when it comes to doing spiritual ritual work. The other African spiritual truth that I must share with you is this. It is that there is a very important role that connects millions of African peoples all over the world in this very simple but very powerful ritual. And it has to do what's on top of your head. You're here. And so across the globe, African peoples will trim or cut their hair or shave their heads for ritual purposes, and here's why. You see, our hair attracts, contains, and becomes contaminated by energy. And so it is both a length trap It is a filter, and it's also a magnet for all sorts of energies. And so it traps, and therefore it becomes a contaminant. And because it sits on your head, it begins to control in some ways and influence, your mind, your thinking, your behavior, your demeanor, your mannerisms without you realizing it. Sometimes to the point where it literally can drive you out of your mind, make you mad or insane. And so ritually, for ritual specialists, you'll see that they will often have their hair low or have it trimmed or have it shaven. And the reason you do so, or they do so, and perhaps you can do so as well, is that at a certain point you become burdened by those energies. And so shaving or trimming your hair is a way of not only renewal, but it also releases those energies from you. Essentially, it's a magnet for, those quote unquote demons that I spoke about in a previous recent video to you all. But it also traps, again, a range of energies and things that need not be, in your environment, and certainly sitting on your head, because what sits on your head, whether you are of the Yoruba belief or other beliefs, of course, the Yoruba hold that the head, has a spirit called the Ori, that is the crown of your head. And of course, many African spiritual traditions have this notion of the crown of your head being deeply important as a connective mechanism to the cosmos, and of course, the world of spiritual entities and beings. And so what sits on your head is deeply important. And so trimming, shaving your head ritually and periodically as a way of not only renewal, but is also a way of keeping you whole, healthy, and brand new. The third African spiritual truth that you might not be aware of, and this is very, very important, right, is the role of water. Now, yes, many of you are familiar with the ritual of libation, right? And I have a video in the early seasons of Powered by Nyame about how to do and why and the ins and outs of libation. You can check out some other time. But for now, I want to move beyond libation. And of course, those of you unfamiliar with libation is simply the use of a liquid, usually water. It could be liquor or another form. Sometimes I've even seen people use milk or pito, which is a naturally brewed beer from millet, which is a small grain, or corn. And so libation is well known, is very popular among many spiritual communities. But here is the other hidden sort of important truth about water. You see, by pouring water on the earth, you not only cool the earth, you also cool yourself. So if you are angered, upset, frustrated, go outside. Take off your shoes. Put your feet on grass or soil, and then pour some water. The soil need not be wet or manicured. Any earth that you can put your foot on, and pour some water on the earth, right? It will begin to cool you down, cool your spirit. So we don't do things that happen in split seconds. We don't injure, harm, hurt, damage ourselves, other people, property, and so on. Because when we are angry, frustrated, and filled with rage, a spirit is taking over us, and it's not ourselves. Because spiritual forces are always seeking a new body, a new vehicle to test out, to ride. Essentially, it's a carjacking, but we call it a body jacking or body snatching. And in that joyride, a lot of things can happen. People get, hurt, injured, and of course, they leave this earth. And so, what better way to address that? As soon as you feel it bubbling up inside you, go outside, take your shoes off, pour some water on the earth. Another ritual with water is this. Let's say a spiritual force to come over you and you don't know what's going on, but you feel it coming on you and you don't know what it is. You take some water, you pour some on the top of your head, you pour some on the nape of your neck that runs down your back, and you pour some on your feet. Obviously, your shoes are removed. Doesn't matter if your socks are on or not, if you have socks on at all. Pour some water at those three places. It will send that spirit or that force away from you. The other hidden use of water is this. You see, water is deeply important in the morning. In the morning when you wake up, don't brush your teeth yet. Get some water, right? Hopefully fresh, clean water, spring water, those things will do. And I want you to drink some water. You see, overnight, the body has not only been cleansing and cleaning itself, but there's medicine inside your mouth that many of you probably weren't aware of. And so by washing that medicine down, it gets into the system and it cleans the body in ways that is non-physical. That is, it's not simply something that you can put in the lab and under a microscope and test it out. And so that medicine that has been essentially brewing overnight, when your spirit has left the body and the spirit has come back, that medicine in your mouth, right? Don't brush it out with toothpaste and a toothbrush yet. You will brush your teeth, of course. What I want you to do is take some water and wash that down. And you'll see the effects it has on your body. Let's say give it a week of doing that every morning, right? And so those are the three spiritual truths that you may not have been aware of, and now that you are aware of it, you can put it to use. If you're aware, please drop your questions and experience in the comments in the question below. If you're not aware, do the same. Until next time, stay well.